the moment has arrived where we rebuild this beautiful, interactive scatter plot from scratch. So let's start off here with a completely clean data set. Now, as I mentioned in the previous explanation, the trick here is we have a single measure for market value, and we need to create two measures for market value, one for each of the selected countries. So let's start off first by creating two sets on our country. So this will be country 1, and I'll just pick something to have something in it for now, so that we've got Argentina there. And then let's create another set for country 2. And let's say here we have Australia. Okay, so now what we want to do, if I just start building out something like a bar chart here, is for Australia and Argentina, we want to slice out that market value measure. And so we can do this with a conditional calculation that conditionally returns the market value if the country is in the set. So if country 1, then return the market value. And then otherwise just return nothing. So this will be the market value for country 1. And then okay on that. So let me just hit apply and then drag this in, and this should be null everywhere except for Argentina. And you can see it's just basically like sliced out that bar like zoop, into its own little measure. Okay, so now we want to have another one that references the other set. So this will be the market value for country 2. And so I'm going to just swap out country 2 here, hit apply on that. And then this should slice out that bar for Australia. And boom, there it does. Excellent. Okay. So now we have our two measures. And at the moment, these are in different rows because we're slicing by country. But if you remove the country and then put them on opposing axes and bring in the position, now this is giving you the comparison of, actually let's do country 1 on this axis. This is now country 1 versus country 2. I now forget what they are. Argentina's country 1, Australia's country 2. So this is saying Argentina has a right-wing value of, that's just so enormous, 235 million pounds, while Australia's right wing is 4 million. Now, I think specifically we wanted to look at the average value of a single player. So let me just go and modify those into averages. So that was step 1. Step 2 is to now calculate the difference between these two. And it doesn't really matter what order you put these in. It just matters how you color them eventually. Nope, that was the same one. Let me just do, all right, country 1 minus country 2. So that'll give you your difference. And then let's go ahead and put this on color. And then for our number of players, now if I just go and put the total number of players, so that would be count distinctive player ID on here, that's going to give the number of players in the entire world for that position. So that's not what we want. In this case, we would specifically want the number of players for just Argentina and for these two countries. So we can create a filter that actually removes the other countries. But instead of using an AND logic, which is the default of all of our filters, we can use an OR logic and say things are in country 1 or they're in country 2. And so now, if I apply this to the filter shelf, you will see that now there's only 5 players. And notice that it didn't actually filter the axes, it just filtered the size here. And it's just filtered down here, if we do show all fields, to Australia and Argentina's specific 5 players that play in that given position. So there we go. That is now our awesome scatter plot. And let me go and put a little border around it. So at the moment now, this is hard-coded to these two countries in these two sets. what set actions enable is, instead of having to go in and modify this in the dialog that's hidden inside the schema viewer, we can externally modify the selection here through an action. So let me go and make those two kind of heap map legend things, shall we call them. So specifically, it was looking at the average market value by country, sorted ascending, and then just a neat little trick to make this like a completely kind of self-contained legend is we can just go and hide the header, and then the label is sort of self-selecting, and if you want to center it, there you go. All right, so this will be our country 1. Let me just remember that. So country 1, yes, that's going to map to the vertical axis, and then country 2 is going to map to the horizontal axis. So let's go call that country 2 and swap that this way, and we probably want to make it a little bit bigger, and then just format those labels so that they read upwards. Voila. Okay, cool. So then the next thing here was to do something awesome with the colors. So I've got this set up here. So orange is on the bottom, and so the country 2, we'll want to make that one actually orange. And so now we can go and build this visualization here where the scatter plot is the center. I'm going to just remove those legends for simplicity. So country 1 is going to go here, country 2 is going to go here, and then let's just fit these things to the entire view, and we can just remove the titles. All right. Now we'll just want to stick a little blank dude down here, and we've got our sort of self-selecting scatter plot. So now the thing that we need to do is hook up the interactivity so that when I select Belgium, it filters this axis, and when I select Germany, it filters this axis. So that's where the set action comes into play. So let me go and add 2 set actions. So the source of, so country 1 is going to be the source to the country 1 set, and this is where it's important to just keep track of your axes. And then there's going to be another one where country 2 is the source of the country 2 set. Okay, so now if we go and pick France, this is now going to give you France's average market value, which is now 70 million, significantly higher, versus Brazil. Now, there's a little bit more customization that we can do to this scatter plot to make it super obvious where the winner versus loser is in that situation. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually hard code the center of this to 0. And now this is just a really neat trick for sort of synchronizing axes and trend lines. If you put a trend line here, this is a statistical trend line that's telling you the correlation between these two things. And that's not what we want in this specific instance. We're not trying to correlate them, we're trying to compare them. So what we really want is just a straight line where x is equal to y. And so the way you can do that is just taking this pill, making it adjacent so that, in fact, x is equal to y. And then for that marks card, just remove all these things and then make it, you know, transparent with no border so that it doesn't look like there's any marks, and you can sort of turn off the tooltip. I think I did turn off. Oh, yeah, no, yeah. Okay. And then let's go grab this trend line and stick that on the second marks card. So now it's using that underlying data to draw this x is equal to y trend line. So that's just a neat kind of trick that you can use that's relatively simple. So we'll go and synchronize those axes and then hide this header. And so then you can see that anything on this side of the line is strictly in favor of the blue country. Anything else on this side is strictly in favor of the orange country, right, which is Brazil and Germany versus, let's say, France and Spain. And so now, for that legend, that part's actually really straightforward, the country legend, because a set is, the way to think of a set is like a generalization of a filter. So anything you can do with a filter, you can also do with a set, just by taking the set and actually sticking it on the filter shelf. So if I want to filter by country 1, that has now done that for me, which is great. We can go and make this a filled map, and this becomes our legend, right? And then we can do the same thing, but then filtering by country 2, and let's make this one our orange one, and that's our legend 2. So now we can just bring these 2 things in here as our nice little legends. And voila, you can turn off, the map layers. This is getting into formatting stuff, which is a bit out of scope of this session, but you can sort of turn off the map layers to then just have it as this sort of transparent legend, because it's not being used for geographic trends or anything. You're just using this as an indicator of what is your current selection. So there you have it. That is this whole example rebuilt from scratch, and I hope that you are just as jazzed about this as I am. Wait, let's go and label this with, I can't leave it unperfected. I'm sorry. Let's label it with the position, make those guys nice and big. And so voila, there we have it. Hope you enjoyed this.